Okay, so every year, millions of us get together for a holiday meal, and right in the center of the table is a turkey. But have you ever stopped and actually wondered, why do we call it that? The story behind its name is one of the wildest cases of mistaken identity in history. And trust me, it's a good one.
So here it is. Here's the big question. How on earth did a bird that's native only to the Americas end up being named after the country of Turkey, a place that's literally 5,000 miles away? This isn't just some random coincidence. It's like a little fossil buried in our language, and it tells an amazing story about trade, exploration, and just a whole lot of confusion. The answer is, well, it's a bit of a mess. It all starts with one bird being confused for another, which then kicked off a massive, worldwide game of telephone. So, to solve this whole mystery, we need to meet the original turkey.
Right, so our investigation doesn't start in the Americas. Nope, we've got to head to Africa and Europe to find the bird that first, and mistakenly, got stuck with the name.
Everybody, meet the guinea fowl. This cool-looking African bird was a really popular import in Europe back in the 16th century. And because it was brought to England by merchants trading with the Ottoman Empire, the English just called it a turkey cock. The name had nothing to do with where the bird was from, just who was selling it.
A huge piece of this puzzle is a group called the Levant Company. These were the English Turkey merchants, and they pretty much had a monopoly on trade with the Ottoman Empire. So, for the average person in England, any cool, exotic thing that came off their ships, spices, fabrics, and yeah, weird new birds, was just considered a Turkey product.
So, when the Spanish conquistadors brought this bigger bird from America over to Europe, the English saw something that looked, well, kind of like the guinea fowl they already knew. Now, we can look at this and see they are totally different birds from different continents. But to someone in the 1500s, close enough. So the name turkey just jumped from the African bird to the American one. And it stuck.
And that one little mistake, it kicked off a massive chain reaction of confusion that rippled across languages all over the world. It was a true global game of telephone.
And this is where it gets hilariously circular. The English called it a turkey because of Turkish traders. Okay, makes sense. But in Turkey itself, they called the bird Hindi because they thought it came from India.
That India connection was a really common mistake, and you can thank Christopher Columbus for that, since he thought he'd reached the East Indies. So the French called it Dinde, which is just short for from India. Meanwhile, over in India, they're like, nope, not from here. They call it Peru.
And the linguistic chaos just keeps on going. In Arabic, it's the Roman chicken. In Greek, the French chicken. In Malay, the Dutch chicken. It's like everyone just named the bird after whichever group of foreigners they last saw selling it. It's a total mess.
And get this, it wasn't just the bird. For a little while, even corn, another crop from the Americas, was called turkey wheat in England. It just proves that back then, the word turkey was basically just shorthand for anything new, exotic, and from, somewhere over there to the east.
All right, enough of the naming chaos. Let's cut through all of that and travel to the turkey's real homeland to uncover its actual story.
Long before any Europeans showed up and gave it a completely wrong name, this bird already had its own, and it was a powerful one. In the Nahuatl language of the Aztecs, it was called Huexolotl. The name translates to something like big monster, or maybe jeweled bird, which, if you've ever seen a big male turkey all puffed up, you know that name is absolutely perfect.
And this bird was so much more than just a source of food. For thousands of years, it had this deep cultural importance. It was first domesticated in Mexico way back around 800 BC. And for indigenous peoples like the Aztecs and the ancestral Pueblonians, it was revered. They valued it not just for its meat, but for those amazing iridescent feathers that they would weave into sacred robes, and they even carved its strong bones into essential tools.
And this timeline just shows how incredibly fast the turkey conquered the Old World. After thousands of years in the Americas, it's brought to Spain around 1519, it gets to England just a few years later, and by the 1570s, it's already a standard part of an English Christmas dinner. That's a truly meteoric rise.
So, how did this sacred American bird end up as the icon for a major European holiday, and then later an American one?
Well, a key player in all this was a guy named William Strickland. He was an English navigator who supposedly bought 6 turkeys from indigenous traders, sold them back home, and made an absolute fortune. He was so proud of this little business venture that in 1550, he made the turkey the centerpiece of his family's coat of arms. It was a total status symbol. From there, its popularity just exploded. Part of the reason was practical. Turkeys hatch in the spring, and they grow to a perfect size for a big feast by December. So by 1573, it was already being called a Christmas essential. Even King Henry VIII, a man famous for his love of a good feast, is rumored to have been one of the first to serve it.
But the person who really truly sealed the deal was Charles Dickens. When a reformed Ebenezer Scrooge sends the Cratchit family that famous prized turkey in A Christmas Carol, it forever welded the bird to the idea of holiday generosity and celebration in all of our minds.
And of course, the story comes full circle, right back to America. You can't talk about the turkey without mentioning Benjamin Franklin. Now, he never officially proposed it as the national bird, that's a bit of a myth, but he did famously write in a letter to his daughter that the turkey was a true original native of America, and in his opinion, a much more respectable bird than the bald eagle, which he cheekily called a bird of bad moral character.
So just think about that incredible journey for a second. A bird domesticated as a sacred animal by the Aztecs, misnamed by traders because of an African bird, celebrated by English kings, and immortalized by novelists, finally landed on the American Thanksgiving table. It's a symbol of a history that's way more complex than we ever could have imagined.
The story of the word turkey really is a linguistic fossil. It perfectly preserves a moment of global confusion from 500 years ago. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other secrets, what other forgotten journeys and mistaken identities are just hiding in plain sight in the words we use every single day?
Don't forget to like and subscribe for more How Meets History.